Bangy shot it.
Tell them what we got here with us today.
Made in the 90s.
Made in the 90s. Where does that come from?
What's something that people my age like really heavily identify with in this era, and it's like holding on to the values of like being born in the 90s and growing up with the 90s cartoons and the 90s TV shows and the 90s movies and just that nostalgia factor. So I was like, if I'm made in the 90s, like, then that pretty much means, you know, like I'm the leader of all the misfit toys of the 90s era that still cling to, you know, that the nostalgia, just remembering like watching Rugrats or Keenan and Kel or some shit like that, and just eating your dinosaur nuggets and shit. Like, so for me, like, that's what it was all about. It just encompasses that vibe of like just being made in the 90s, just like owning that shit and just being like the last great generation of before technology fucking ruined everything.
And how old are you exactly?
I'll be 26 in January.
Okay. Did you have some help coming up with your name? Did somebody help you with that name, or was you on your own when you said my name is going to be made in the 90s?
I came up with it all on my own, and you know, it was one of those things where I just kind of started like jokingly like calling myself that, and then in my friend group it just kind of like caught on, and then from then on it was just everybody was like, what up Made, what up Made, like, and then I got it. My first tattoo that I ever got on my neck was made in the 90s, and
okay,
so from that point on it pretty much just solidified that that's what it was going to be.
That's what it's going to be. Tell us where you're from originally.
I was born and grew up in Hocking County, Ohio, Hocking Hills, basically. If you know anything about it, you probably heard about it.
We really don't know much. I'm gonna just let you know, a lot of people don't know much. So tell us, like, what's a typical day in Hocking? Like, what's...
Shit, not slow. I mean, anybody that knows anything about it at all just probably knows, like, obviously, like, Old Man's Cave, like, State Park, and just, like, a bunch of trees and shit. It's the country. I grew up in the country. A lot of trees, a lot of farm fields, a lot of hills, and... just, yeah.
I take it the music scene out there is really slow, relatively.
The music scene, if existent at all, is pretty much just in like little like suburbs of smaller cities, like bar scene, just your standard like little country cover band, or maybe some bluegrass or some rock covers, but there's not like an original music, authentic scene where there's people showcasing their own art or talents or ability. So there's nothing. I mean, where I grew up there was nothing. Basically it was just like whatever you could make happen on your own was what you were doing. If you like, I used to play festival, like there was a little festival, like a fireman's festival, like in this little shit ass town that I went to elementary school in, and I used to book that, and they'd pay me like a few $100s to go down there and fucking jam out on the guitar and sing some Tom Petty covers and shit.
So you were actually getting paid for shows in Hocking?
Yeah.
Okay, that's dope.
The first gigs I ever did was when I was like 16 years old, 17, and there was this restaurant, and I knew the owner, and their daughters went to the same high school that I did, so I just walked the fuck in one day and was like, with my guitar in hand, and I was like, y'all want to listen to a song real quick? And I played them a song, and I was like, I'm trying to start coming playing here, and they're like, all right, bet. So like I got like 2 or 3 nights a week doing that, and I was allowed to collect tips, and they'd feed me for free, and that was really the first ever opportunity that I ever had of like showcasing because I would always like play some covers, and then I'll throw some of my own shit in there, just sneak it in there and see if anybody would notice. And then, you know.
How did they take it when you did that? How did they take to it?
I mean, I never, like, really, I'm not just saying it, like, I really never coming up had a bad reaction, and I think that's what really propelled me so much towards pursuing it, is that every time I would get in front of somebody, they'd just be like, well, where the fuck did that come from? And I'd just be like, I don't know.
At what age did you decide that you were going to do music, that you wanted to do music for a living?
I mean, I grew up my whole life. My grandpa on my mom's side was a drummer in bands his whole life, and I grew up around that. And I think he was honestly one of my biggest influences. And probably around 18, when I was, because I was like, in high school, I was like pretty popular, athletic, like played sports and shit. And
What sports did you play?
I played baseball and basketball.
Okay, so were you one of the stars on the team? One of the
I mean, I started in basketball, but I didn't play past, I think, my sophomore year. And then, because I was really focused on baseball. And then the high school that I went to, it was a small town school, so it was all politics. You had to have the right last name to really be.
So would you say you were like a dweeb in high school, or would
No,
you?
I mean, I was one of those people where I feel like I could float around amongst anybody. Like, I was friends with all the popular kids. I was friends with the skater kids. I was friends with the kids rolling up joints and smoking in the parking lot at lunch break. I was friends with, I was friends with all that. I was dating cheerleaders with long shaggy hair and ripped jeans, and I would fucking, my senior year was when, that was when I made the decision, because that was when it was like, senior year was coming around and it was like, you're either going to do spring training for baseball, or you're going to say fuck that shit, take 5 art classes and just play guitar and focus on this music shit.
And by this time you were probably already smoking, into the drugs and stuff like that, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I mean, I started smoking weed when I was like probably 14. And it wasn't never really like a thing. It was just one of those things where, like, when you grew up where I grew up, like, it's the wild, wild west. Like, you could call the cops, but
Anything goes, pretty much.
it's going to be a couple hours, and if they can even find where you was at when you got called, then, like, but other than that, yeah, so, I mean, it never really was, like, anything. It was just one of those things where it was never really looked at, like, my parents didn't really like it, but they were okay with it, but
Tell me about your upbringing. What were your parents like in your childhood, as far as your upbringing? Tell us about your parents.
Well, I don't know. I mean, unlike a lot of people these days, I mean, they probably dealt with like parents getting divorces or like one of them not being around or whatever. But like, I pretty much had your standard like Midwest like upbringing. Like, both parents were around, both parents worked, both parents like were chill. Dad helped coach the baseball team. Like, mom worked at a dentist office. Like,
Were they real strict on you?
when I was younger, I think there was a lot of push to try and keep me on the right path, just because I was always like a highly stimulated child. So like, there was always a lot going on in my mind. So, and plus I was advanced, like, so like the teachers had a hard time keeping me interested, and I wouldn't like pay attention to shit, because it was like I pretty much already knew what was going on, and then they would get pissed off at me because like they couldn't really do nothing about it because I was acing on my tests and shit, and I'd be fucking off and they'd be getting mad at me, but it's like, he's doing good, so it's like we can't get him in trouble or nothing. But like, my parents were always, the thing is, what really pushed me towards music is the fact that they were strict, like, as far as morally, just like, you don't lie, you don't steal, like, shit like that, just your basic shit. But when it come to like growing up, they kind of let me make my own decisions.
They let you be a man, basically.
Yeah, I mean, they let me decide. I mean, they could tell that I had a good enough head on my shoulders that whatever it was that I decided I was going to do, like, I was going to put 100% effort into whatever it was that I was going to try and pursue. So I think in their mind, they were like, he's so strong-willed, like, there's no way we're going to be able to keep him from doing what it is that he wants to do. So we might as well just support it. So from an early age, I mean, every Christmas it was like, I want a new guitar, I want a drum set, I want a keyboard, I want this, I want that, I want time at studio time, like, and that, and, you know, and we grew up. I grew up pretty. I mean, I grew up fucking poor. I ain't even gonna cap. Like, and it's not like one of those things when you're younger, like you don't realize it, because it doesn't register until later on.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're a kid, it's like, you know, you got some new shoes for school, you got some new clothes for school and shit. You know, you get some presents under the tree here and there. So it's like it doesn't register until later on when you think about like what they was going without in order to like make sure that you was going to school looking fly and not getting made fun of and type shit. So yeah, but it was one of those things where, you know, they let me express myself and they were okay with the fact that I wanted to make music. So
You still got a close relationship now with your
yeah,
parents?
absolutely, especially after this year, especially with all the fucking COVID hoopla bullshit going on with that. Not that I think it's bullshit, but just, you know, the way that it's affected everybody's mindset and the way that it's affected media and just everything like that. But my dad's got COPD, so it's one of those things where, like, you know, when we first found out about all this COVID shit, it was kind of like, I was worried. I was sweating it, you know. I was like, shit, I don't want him to have to go through that. But my relationship with them is good. They still support what I'm doing, and I've been able to have some success at what I'm doing and what I'm pursuing to an extent where it makes it look, you know, to them like it's worth it to keep doing what I'm doing. So they're cool about all that shit.
Dope. Tell us about your sound musically. How would you describe your sound as an artist?
I mean, my sound is basically a big melting pot of everything that I listened to when I was growing up and just shit that I hear from current music that I like. And I just take my talents and my abilities musically and I just apply them to whatever it is that I'm trying to pursue. When I make a project, I don't really try to set a guideline as to what it's gonna sound like. If I'm feeling a vibe, I'm not gonna shelf that vibe. Like, I'm gonna let it play out how it's gonna play out. And in the end, if it's something good enough to make it to the cutting room floor, then hell yeah. And if not, then it's like I worked that idea out. And maybe there was just some shit inside of me that I needed to get out. And the only way that I could do that and make it feel authentic was damn, I choked on my spit. Only way I could get that thought out, like, you know, and express myself effectively was through that genre. Because it's like, I don't really try to make just one genre of music. I would say the main genre that I fuck with, that I've been working on making my own sounds, trying to create something authentic to Made in the 90s and what that stands for to me. And so basically it's kind of like this fusion of early 2000s alternative pop punk music with hip hop infused drums and 808s and fast trap hi-hats and just kind of a big mixture. And there's even R&B elements to my sound, some more soulful shit, some more indie shit, and I'm just...
Who are some of your musical influences?
I mean, early influences growing up, I listened to a lot of classic rock. That was a lot of what was playing around the house or in the car or on the way to and from was classic rock, like Led Zeppelin, Aerosmith, Black Sabbath, Ozzy Osbourne, freaking all that kind of shit, all the way up through to, like, and this is at an early age, like Marilyn Manson, Limp Bizkit, all kinds of shit I was introduced to at an early age. I mean, one of the first cassette tapes I ever got was Country Grammar by Nelly, and my dad gave that to me. And it's funny because he's like this kind of redneck guy. He's like kind of this redneck guy, and he wears like a camouflage ball cap sometimes, and like he just but yeah, he's the one that turned me on to that shit, because he listened to Biggie Smalls and Nelly.
Your dad is actually a hip hop fan.
Yeah, and that's funny because he's the one that, like, he listens to all the classic rock, and Aerosmith's one of his biggest bands that he loves. And so when Aerosmith and Run DMC did the collab with the Walk This Way, and that was one of the first times that I was introduced through him being introduced to like hip hop and shit like that. And so from there it was just like I got all sides of it: hip hop, rock, country.
So would you say it sounds to me like your dad had a major part in some of the inspiration as far as what turned your style on, as far as the hip hop basis to your style?
A lot, surprisingly, yeah, a lot. Which
wow.
if anybody that actually like knows my dad would probably be surprised to know that. But yeah, he was kind of the first person that like influenced me into listening to hip hop, because he listened to it in the truck while we were driving, like listening to that shit, just cruising, and he'd rap along with the lyrics and shit, and we'd be vibing. And it was just, as a kid, I was like, yeah, this is cool, like I fuck with this. And then it made me like branch out from there and find my own shit, and I would listen to everything everything from Tim McGraw to, you know, the new like 3 Days Grace album. Like I listened to everything. I grew up listening to rock, rap, so all that stuff is very apparent in my sound. Today, some of my favorite artists today, I try to always keep finding what's new, what's coming next. I always try to stay up on like what it is, but I like a lot of melodic hip hop. That's pretty much 90% of my playlist is like melodic trap.
Name a couple of your favorite artists nowadays.
I just recently got put onto a new artist, Warhol SS, and
I'm hip to him.
I've been banging some of his shit. The song On That Road, I've been playing that shit on repeat. That shit is fire. And then there's another artist I found that he's a southern artist. His name's Spot 'em Got 'em.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a song.
Yeah, I'm hip to Spot 'em. Florida artist.
Yeah. And he has a song called Flaws, and I've been banging that shit over and over, because you just listen to that.
It's crazy because the type of music that you make, that I've heard from you make, compared to the type of stuff that you listen to, it's like this crazy fusion, because you wouldn't think that you would even listen to these records or be naming these artists. So that's very interesting to me. That intrigues me, definitely intrigues me. Are you an only child or any?
No, I have a younger sister.
Okay, so you're the eldest though.
Yeah, I'm the firstborn. Okay. The firstborn of the family.
And how much younger is your sister?
She's what? I don't know. She's like 4 years younger than me.
Okay.
4 or 5 years younger than me, I think. She's 21. I'm about to be 26, so she'll be 4 years younger than me.
What transitions do you think musically you've made from the time you first started till now? Like, what are some of the differences you hear in your music?
Definitely the fact that I'm utilizing a lot more. I'm using a lot more production, as far as like using sampled sounds, using hip hop production basically to back the accompaniment of the rest of my stuff. I mean, I work with a few different producers. They do a lot. I mean, I've worked with them to kind of fine tune them to where they know what it is I want to hear when they send me a pack. Like, they know.
Who are some of the producers you work with?
Right now, I mean, I got my collaborator, and he just goes by Madeinthe90s as well, because it's kind of just like a collective thing, because he works pretty much exclusively with me. He's a fire ass producer, and if anybody was lucky enough to get their hands on getting to work with him, but it ain't gonna happen.
So both of you guys actually go by Madeinthe90s.
Yeah. And
okay.
Before,
and is there any difference to like Madeinthe90s do 1 or Madeinthe90s 2 or Madeinthe90s?
No, it's just one of those things where we both collaborate pretty much on everything that we create. Besides the fact that like I write all my own lyrics and I make all my own vocal melodies, like, so I mean when it comes to the production side of things, like we both sit down and
so you're a production team together basically?
Pretty much, yeah. And then we have
So do you don't think that will confuse people on the artist side? They're trying to brand you as a solo artist, and if, say for instance, he gets bigger than you by chance, making beats or something, or doing whatever he does, then they may think, hey,
Well, the fact of the matter is that last year he went blind fully. So
okay. Sorry to hear that.
he's pretty much solely just focused on what we're doing. He's dedicated to me and my music and my vision, and so he ain't really working with nobody else. So at the end of the day, that's why we made the decision to just go ahead and go with the Made in the 90s thing, because I had a tag made so that way I could tag songs with it. And it's like, so that way, even if he didn't produce it, if it's got the Made in the 90s tag in it, like, he's going to get some credit off of it just because.
And how long have you guys known each other?
We've been working together for about probably 3 years, going on 3 years, and it was well into like the 2-year mark after that when he started experiencing issues, and it just ended up spiraling and getting serious. So,
how did that affect you?
I mean, I don't know how would it affect anybody? I mean, you watch somebody that you grind with consistently go through some shit like that, it fucks you up mentally.
Definitely, that sounds crazy.
Just because you're not, when you're young and shit, like, you know, I'm right now I'm 25, I feel invincible, you know what I mean? But like, you don't think that just someday somebody you're close to is gonna wake up and they can't like see your face when you talk to them anymore. So it just kind of fucks it up. But
and he does production, correct?
Yep.
So is he still able to do his production through being blind, or is it something that he's not even able to do anymore?
He's got a system set up now where he's got a couple of assistant producers that we've enlisted to come into sessions, and he basically just has the FL screen memorized in his head. So
That's crazy.
He tells them exactly what he wants them to do and what sound pack each sample's in, and he just instructs them what he wants, and when it's done, it's his creation. He's just using somebody else's eyes. So, but yeah, we also work pretty closely with Sapphire. Is another producer that we work with. He goes by Sapphire, and then we work with another producer that I've been known for a while, and his name's Ace High Beats. So those are the 3 producers that I'm pretty much exclusively working with right now. And then my manager, Beat Spear, he also produces, so at some point in time I'm sure that it'll come into play. But right now those are pretty much the 3 people that I trust to put my vision on the next level.
Okay. And as far as your love life, are you single, involved?
Shit, I knew that was gonna come up. I'm currently single. I was in a relationship for a while, but that shit just like it was just one of those things where I had known her for a really long time. She was a freshman in high school when I was a senior in high school, and she just, I don't know, she like fell in love with me. She just always like was into me, and we was on and off for a long ass time, and we were on and then we were off, and she got pregnant, and then we were on and then we were off, and then she got married, and then we were back on, and she left her husband for me.
Tell us what role Heartbreak has played in your career.
Shit, I mean, I feel like it's one of those things where I think that's been a theme that's followed me around my whole life, I think. And it's not even relating to like a love relationship, like being in a relationship with a significant other. Like, it's more or less just heartbreak all around, just like the heartbreak of life, just being heartbroken to see people like in circumstances that they're in, being heartbroken to like watch society go through injustices, be heartbroken to watch family members pass away, being heartbroken to watch friends move away, and then obviously, you know, your standard heartbreak of like you know, having feelings for somebody and shit not working out. So, and I think it's played a role in my life significantly as to the type of person I've always been. I feel hard. I feel a lot of emotions all the time. So it's easy for me to get wrapped up in like emotional investment. Just like that goes with anybody. That goes with friends. That goes with, you know, I always want to be there for people. I always want to like show I care as best as I can. So it's like, you know, sometimes it comes off in a certain way, but I think heartbreak's a big deal, you know. I got a broken heart tatted on my neck, so it was obviously significant enough to me that I felt like it's one of those things that drives my music constantly.
Alright, so now we about to do this or that section of the show where we basically ask our interviewees. It's either this or that. What you gonna do? Life or death? Which one? So we about to get this shit popping. You got a very, very short time to answer these questions, and we're gonna get it going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This or that. Ass or titties?
Ass.
Rap or rock and roll?
Rock and roll.
$1 million or 1 million followers?
$1 million.
Rob a bank or walk on hot rocks for 1 minute?
Try saying that 5 times fast. $1 million. Or I mean, rob a bank.
Alright. Let me see. Drums or guitar?
Shit. Guitar.
Watch football or basketball? NFL or NBA?
NFL.
Bungee jump or skydive?
Skydive all day.
Coke or meth?
Coke.
Pepsi or Coke?
Coke.
Rugrats or Hey Arnold?
Ooh, that's a hard one. Alright, Rugrats.
Alright, bet. Skittles or Starburst?
Starburst all the way.
Hot dogs or bratwurst?
Brats.
White girls or black girls?
Ooh, mixed.
Alright, we're gonna take that. So you actually passed that segment of the motherfucking show.
Yeah. Alright, so this is a snippet from my song Starburst. So I'm just gonna run it for you guys a cappella. Had to learn the hard way, just because they hype on me, that mean they really my bro. Love me, always right for me, she might still pack her shit and go. I ain't looking for approval, I could do this on my own. Please remove yourself from around me, I'll get this money by my loan. Y'all some little Sour Patch Kids, I'm the cherry Starburst. New car, new house coming my way if I don't die first. Hey, I'm gonna pull up with little shorty with the Louis purse. Roll up smoking on all that Zaza till my lungs hurt. You already know you're rocking with Made in the 90s right here, and you already know you're rocking with Bangin' Valley Films. You can follow me on IG at XMadeInThe90sX and run that shit up.